Members, good morning. It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the panel on transport. Welcome to this meeting. Agenda item 1. Information papers issued since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, no information paper has been issued. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. Please refer to 2 sets of LC papers. 1. List of outstanding items for discussion, CB bracket 3 1119/2025 bracket 01. 2. List of follow-up actions, CB bracket 3 1119/2025 bracket 02. The next regular meeting will be held at 10:45 a.m. on the 19th of September. It's a Friday. The administration suggests discussing the topic of enhancing licensing arrangements and facilitation measures for road-based cross-boundary travel. The administration will propose another topic for discussion at the next meeting. The Secretariat will notify members after it's been informed. Do members agree? If we're all good, we'll stick to this arrangement for the next meeting. Agenda item 3. Legislative proposal to regulate online hailing hire car services. I'd like to first ask our staff to invite the government representatives to join us. There are a number of papers. LC paper number CB bracket 31134/2025 bracket 01. That's the paper provided by the administration on this topic. LC paper number CB bracket 31134/2025 bracket 02. That's the background brief prepared by the LegCo Secretariat. There's also a submission from Uber Hong Kong team. That's LC paper number CB bracket 31137/2025 bracket 01. Over these past 2 days, we've got a number of submissions from different stakeholders. One of the submissions is from the Hong Kong Taxi Council. That's LC paper number CB bracket 31153/2025 bracket 01. We also got a submission from Civic Exchange that's included in the latest agenda. That's CB bracket 31155/2025 bracket 01. I welcome Secretary for Transport and Logistics and her team for joining this item. We're all concerned about this topic, so we welcomed members not from this panel to join the discussion as well. Members who would like to put questions, please press the request to speak button. Let's see how many members are asking to speak. I may draw a line at some point because I do want to have a focused discussion on this topic. Members in this complex, if you would like to join the discussion, please be here as soon as possible. Depending on the progress of our discussion, I will draw a line at some point. Now, I'll invite the Secretary to walk us through the paper, but before that, I'll read out the lineup first, so members can be prepared. 13 members have asked to speak. They are Mr. Chen Pui-Lun, Dr. Lo Wai-Kwok, Mr. Shanghai Long, Mr. Edward Lau, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Gary Zhang, Mr. Ben Chen, Mr. Cheng Hock Fong, Dr. Eric Yim, Mr. Michael Luk, Mr. Frankie Yik, Mrs. Regina Ip, and Deputy Chair, Mr. Perry Yu. Before the meeting, I got a notice from Mr. Michael Tin. He is now attending a policy address consultation session, so he can't be here right now, but he'll try to be here. If he cannot make it before I draw the line, I'll ask if members agree that I put his name on the list. We all agree? Okay, let's see what time he is here. Now, I'd like to invite the Secretary to brief us through this topic. Please leave some time for a discussion between the administration and members. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. This is a legislative proposal to regulate online hailing hire car services. This is an important topic. Apart from myself, the entire team from our bureau as well as the transport department are here. It shows that we attach importance to this topic. And we have submitted an information paper with a lot of information to members. We don't have a PowerPoint presentation because I'd like to make use of the time today to listen to members' views. Well, it is a broad topic, so I'd like to spend a few minutes to brief members on this. I will try to be succinct. Online prearranged point-to-point transport services are very common around the world, same for Hong Kong. And the current term government is determined to make a breakthrough to resolve this controversy that has been existed for 11 years. The government proposes this framework, and we are putting members of the public's interest in as our first priority. We want to provide people with more choices. We want to enhance the service quality. An important stakeholder is taxi drivers. So we will consider businesses of the taxi trade as we facilitate the healthy and orderly development of personalized point-to-point transport services so that we can bring about a new landscape. This is a complex topic. It covers a lot of considerations and interests of different stakeholders. We have got divergent views from different stakeholders. Some people are of the view that online ride-hailing services are better than taxi services. However, many citizens are used to hailing cabs on the street or hailing cabs at taxi stands because this provides convenience to them. Despite the divergent views, we have had a clear consensus. That is, people hope that the government can, as early as possible, regulate online ride-hailing services to protect passengers' safety and interests. This is also to satisfy people's commuting needs. People want a healthy competition at the point-to-point transport service industry. On this consensus or basis, we are proposing a legislative framework so that we can focus on the other technical details at the next stage or other divergent views at the community level. We have to balance a number of factors. First, of course, the safety of passengers. Secondly, we have to take into consideration the highly efficient public transport system as well as road management. Also, as mentioned, we consider businesses of the taxi trade as well as the competition and interactions between the taxi trade and the online ride-hailing industry. We cannot adopt a broad brush approach to resolve the problems. We have to come up with a system that protects passengers' safety. At the same time, we have to ensure that we can maintain the highly efficient public transport system. This is the aspiration of our citizens as well as members of this council. Together, we can achieve this. taxi trade and the ride-hailing industry are not a zero-sum game. Instead, they complement each other. The CE mentioned that under 7 major principles, we strive to facilitate healthy competition between the taxi trade and the ride-hailing industry so that they can each give full play to their strengths. And together, we hope that they can enhance the public transport service quality. The paper we provided covers our analysis and considerations. I'm not going to repeat them, but I'd like to stress 3 points. First, one of the purposes of our legislative framework is to effectively regulate online ride-hailing services, and at the same time, we do not want to stifle the development of the industry. We will require platform companies to meet certain criteria, such as their operational experience, their financial ability, and their investment. This is to ensure that future operators are capable of providing quality services. We also will require platform companies to be registered in Hong Kong and build a local management team. We will ask the platforms to exercise due diligence on their drivers to ensure service quality. They will have to provide certain data to the government. The performance of the platforms will be taken into account as we conduct the interim assessment on the platform companies. These licensing conditions are comparable to those in other cities. Our goal is to protect passengers' safety and interests. I believe that a clear regulatory framework is crucial for platform companies. Through competition, we will be able to ensure better service quality, which will benefit citizens. We have reached out to some existing platform companies and those who are interested in running a platform. We believe that the requirements we impose will ensure that platform companies in future will be able to meet the entry threshold so that they can provide services in Hong Kong. My second point is that another purpose of this regulatory framework is that we want to, through online platforms, we can introduce licensing conditions to ensure competition. Equally important is that we want to eliminate any uncertainties. We want taxis as well as online hailed cars can exist together. The taxi trade can run 24/7 at taxi stands, and they also have other strengths. Also, as proposed in the CE's 7 major principles, we want to, through this regulatory framework, create a new online ride-hailing platform and environment for the taxi trade so that they can offer online ride-hailing services as well. For taxi drivers that are providing illegal ride-hailing services, in future they will be able to operate the business in a legitimate manner or lawful manner with this regulatory framework. This is to give peace of mind to our citizens. Also, we are all aware of the number of online ride-hailed cars on the road. We have a hard-won public transport system in Hong Kong. Every day, 90% of the commuters in Hong Kong take public transports, and this is ranked among the top in the world. We have to prudently issue online ride-hailing platform licenses to prevent any unhealthy competition or traffic congestion issues. We don't want to see citizens being stuck on the road. We don't want to see a rat race, for example, unhealthy cutting of prices or fares, which may affect the businesses of drivers. This regulatory framework seeks to provide a more pleasant travel experience to passengers. So we will listen to the different views. We have to, however, be prudent, and we need to adopt an evidence-based approach. With a clear regulatory framework, different stakeholders will be able to provide their views and comments on a solid basis. Then we can have a focused discussion. On determining the number of online hailed cars, we take into consideration a number of factors, including the experience of passengers, the operational needs of online platforms, and the mode of operation of drivers engaging in the business, the public transport systems operation, as well as the road capacity. We will continue to keep in view the market situation. We will also consider feedback from the industry. In future, where appropriate, we will review the entire licensing regime. The government will invite a working group from the Traffic Advisory Committee to, starting from the middle of August, collect views from the taxi trade as well as online platforms. And these views will be suitably reflected in our legislative amendment. This is a very good occasion for us to listen to the valuable views to be provided by members. If we get an in-principle support from this panel today, we will work at full steam on the preparatory work for the legislative exercise. Our goal is to, by the third quarter this year, provide the legislative amendments. We hope that within this current legislative session, we can complete the legislative exercise and formulate a overarching framework. On the mode of operation of the platform companies as well as the hardware requirements and the licensing conditions, we will continue to discuss with the relevant stakeholders, and we will incorporate the views into the future subsidiary legislations or the licensing regime. Chairman, we believe that through a clear regulatory system, citizens will be able to enjoy a safer travel experience, and they'll have more options, and they will also enjoy a high quality of service. This is also to ensure a sustainable and healthy development of the industry. The goal of our team is to forge a consensus and strike a balance. We want to adopt a people-oriented approach to ensure safe traveling of citizens. We want to see complementarity between the two industries. We welcome views from members, and we are happy to take members' questions.
Other than the Secretary, we also have the Deputy Secretary, Mr. Choi, and PAS. Coming up is the Q&A time for members. There are 16 members, 17, myself included, who have indicated their intention to speak. I am going to be allotting 4 minutes to each member for the Q&A. Please speak it brief so that the Secretary and her team will have more time to address members' questions or comments. Mr. Chen Pui-long and Dr. Lo Wai-kwok. I'm going to draw a line after members have spoken. Members may not have a second chance, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of time for members to exchange views with the Secretary. Mr. Chen Pui-long, 4 minutes for the question and answer. Chairman, thank you. First of all, I support this proposal to regulate ride-hailing service. Now, we are concerned about the insurance of the ride-hailing vehicles. The insurance premium would be very high, so I've got a suggestion here for the ride-hailing platforms. Will the number of hours be opened up? The hours that they serve would be different from vehicle to vehicle. I don't think there can be any unified or uniformed premium. If the number of hours can be opened up to the insurance companies for them to work out the insurance products, I'm sure that it would be good for achieving a reasonable level of premium for the ride-hailing vehicles. So I hope that the platforms would, after the consent has been secured, open up the working hours to the insurance companies for the premium to be worked out. Second, the Secretary also referred to this. They are considering the number of licenses. In the paper, I can see that different areas would have different ratio, 2.6% to 12.6%, or 12 times. So my question is, for these ride-hailing vehicles, are you going to be having regard to the other jurisdictions in terms of the ratio of the ride-hailing vehicles? If the number is too small, then it would defeat the whole purpose of setting up these regulatory platform if the capacity is not sufficient. My last question is, do we have an exit arrangement for the ride-hailing vehicles? I may get a license for the vehicle, but I don't really do much ride-hailing service. Now, there is a limit on the number of licenses. Maybe someone has got 20, 30 licenses under different names, and they're not really using the licenses. It will not be good enough. So let's say someone doesn't use the license for 6 months or for some time. The license should be revoked to make way for some other people, to make sure that we would have sufficient number of licenses in the market. Secretary, thanks very much, Mr. Chen, for the question. I am grateful to you for your support also. First, with this regulatory framework, we have to make sure that passenger safety would be prioritized, so insurance is one of the important considerations. The Bureau and the Department have been discussing with the Insurance Authority, and we are prepared to talk with the insurance industry. Your first point about the data about operational hours, would there be any basis? Would that be a basis for discussion of the insurance products? I'm sure the platforms would be interested in looking into this. We have to make sure that the insurance premiums will not disincentivize the drivers from taking part, while at the same time we will offer good enough insurance protection. But we have to make sure the things would be straightforward. We shouldn't have too high an entry threshold to stifle people's interest to join. You mentioned the number. I'm sure other members would raise this point as well going forward. We have cited some examples in other jurisdictions. And I don't think we should make direct comparison with these jurisdictions. In the paper, we try to make members aware that when we conducted the study, we realized that some jurisdictions do not impose any limit on the numbers, while in other places, when the number is growing significantly, they will impose some control, and also they might suspend the licensing altogether. So the ratio listed in the paper may not be a reference for planning. It's just a presentation of the reality as it is. As I said, in Hong Kong, we have priority in public transport, which is carrying 90% of the passengers. So this is an important consideration. Mr. Chan mentioned the operational hours of the drivers. This would make a difference, or would have some implications on the supply. Exit mechanism, I heard what you said. We are considering the licenses for drivers and vehicles. This is time limited. This is not a perpetual arrangement. We will consider more when it comes to the details. Dr. Low Wai Kwok, I'm going to draw a line there after Dr. Low. For members who haven't quite pressed the button, please make it quick. 4 minutes, Dr. Low. Chairman, thank you. Now, in terms of regulating ride-hailing service, I think I have to commend the administration for being determined to tackle the thorny issues that have been with us for some time. This may not be an ideal solution, but they have taken the first step. Chairman, in fact, at another meeting, when we examined the basic housing unit, the government is really taking the determined effort to tackle these issues. Chairman, I never dared to use these kind of online ride-hailing service other than booking a taxi online. Now, this is really convenient, but we never know whether the vehicle coming along is lawful. Now, if the government is telling us that if they are lawful vehicles, it would be okay, but we have no idea whether the vehicle that you book that comes along is really a lawful vehicle, a licensed vehicle. Some other people would share my concerns. We're not sure even about the insurance coverage. As a LegCo member, I wouldn't dare use this kind of service. If I get caught out using these kind of unlicensed online ride-hailing vehicles, it would be disastrous. But the fact that I don't use it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. In many cities around the world, they have this kind of service, which is doing a really brilliant job. In the mainland, they have taxis and ride-hailing vehicles existing side by side. Why is it that Hong Kong cannot take this step? So when I look at this proposal, it is really desirable. You are regulating the ride-hailing platforms. You're regulating the drivers. You're regulating the vehicles. So the taxi drivers will have an alternative means to operate their trade. I hope that it's going to be a win-win situation. I understand that in the trade, people are having a bit of a headache if they have the taxi license. I mean, we all know that it is pretty expensive to bid for a taxi license, and these license holders are worried that they will be losing out because of this emergence of ride-hailing vehicles. But be that as it may, we have to take the first step. Your question, please, Dr. Low. My question is about the details. The members of the public seem to be reacting positively to this, but ultimately, is it going to be beneficial to the traveling public? Secretary, please. Thank you very much, Dr. Low. We are just as concerned as you are. We very much hope that we can thresh out the fine details as soon as possible. But I can say to Dr. Low that we'd like to build a consensus, and we will be working on the details. While we are building consensus, we will not be slackering our efforts. Now, with the consensus, with the framework we will have a firm basis for us to move ahead. Like Dr. Low said, for the taxi trade, they have to understand that we are going to have a win-win situation, and they do enjoy the operational advantages. And if we can keep this mode of operation, we will make sure that we will be pragmatic in the way forward.
主席，我
Mr. Zhang Hailong, Chairman, I commend the government's effort in rolling out this regulatory framework. This will allow healthy competition between the taxi trade and online hailing cars, and this will provide better services to local citizens as well as tourists. I have two questions. First, apart from the number of online hailing cars, we're also concerned about the cost of getting a license. For example, for taxis, currently the flat fare charge is $29. And will you set a fare level for online hailing cars? Some platforms, they want to compete for passengers. And passengers may only have to pay $20 for an $80 ride. So I'd like to ask about the fare mechanism. Secondly, we want to take into account the development of autonomous vehicles. We want the industry to head towards this direction. A couple of questions, Secretary. On the first point, on the fare level, most members here are very careful. They do not opt for this online hailing cars. But currently there is a platform or a number of platforms online for people to make prearranged bookings. And this is done through the agreement between passengers and online platforms. And through the use of technology, this can be done. The fare is agreed between the drivers and the passenger. However, for taxis, the fare is set by the meter. During peak hours, passengers are willing to pay a higher fare. From the government's perspective, we hope that through this regulatory framework, we can facilitate healthy competition, and we don't want the travel experience of citizens to be affected. We have to ensure that there is competition, and with competition, we'll see progression. And with competition, we will be able to ensure that there won't be a fare that's too high. We will reserve the power to include certain terms and conditions for issuing the licenses. We don't want to have a fare that's set too high or too low. That may affect the healthy development of the industry or the travel experience of passengers. We will reserve the right to deal with these extreme situations. The second question is about autonomous driving. We are doing some forward-looking planning in North Lantau Cyberport as well as in Tongchong. We are testing out some autonomous vehicles. We hope that in the coming 1 to 2 years there will be commercial operations of autonomous vehicles. Chairman, well, does that mean online hailing cars can impose a fare that's lower than that of taxis? I think what's important is that the fare has to be pre-agreed between passengers as well as drivers. We'll leave it to the market to make a decision. Mr. Edward Lau. Thank you, Chairman. I support the regulation of online hailing cars. Through regulation and competition, we can provide convenience to citizens. I have a couple of questions. There there will be a cap on the number of online hailing cars, it seems, and there will also be a cap on the number of licenses to be issued. However, there won't be a cap on the number of drivers. There might be a situation where there are more drivers than online hailing cars. Say there are 10,000 online hailing cars and 50,000 drivers. Will that have implications on rental businesses? Because we have more drivers than vehicles. Also, a lot of drivers may only drive online hailing cars when they are on leave. And they may be more ride-hailing cars during weekends. Say, for example, after an online hailing car is registered, will you ask the relevant driver to provide a certain level of services within a month? Otherwise, we will have registered online hailing cars but not enough services. So the number of drivers and online hailing cars will affect the level of service quality. If you don't require the drivers to provide a certain level of services, then it may have an impact on the public. However, if you allow drivers to drive these online hailing cars without imposing any restrictions, it could give rise to another problem. Secretary, I thank Mr. Edward Lau for the questions. Mr. Lau is good at dealing with the details. Indeed, there are many details that we need to sort out. We have listened to people's views, and we will continue to carefully listen to people's views and think about how we should work on the design. I think it's important to first make the first step. In the past, we had many discussions on the details, including the number of online hailing cars to be allowed on the road, and this made us drag on this issue without being able to come up with a conclusion. In terms of the restrictions that we will impose, well, perhaps I can share with you my understanding about the current situation for online ride-hailing services. Currently, a lot of times, it's the vehicle owner who uses their own private cars for providing ride-hailing services. They make use of their private cars when the cars are available, and that's the model adopted by many drivers in other places. We want to ensure people's safety as we come up with the requirements and eligibility criteria. However, we have to be careful not to stifle the development of the industry. Also, you asked about the rental businesses, as well as whether we should allow people other than the vehicle owners to drive the online hailing cars. Will that give rise to a vehicle rental market, or will there be companies that help manage these cars? Will that deviate from the shared economy model? Well, we heard comments like these recently, and we have been carefully listening to these views as we try to design our system. However, these voices will not affect our determination to come up with an overarching framework by amending the primary legislation. One more point, Chairman. If we allow different drivers to drive the same vehicle, it may give rise to problems about quotas, and it will not help enhance the service quality. Comment noted. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. I think it's important to make the first step. I have some questions about the major principles and some details about this framework. The actual number of online hailing cars available may be different from the services provided to passengers. Say we have 5 taxi fleets. We all know that it's been hard for them to recruit drivers. We have 200,000 taxi drivers, and how come it's been so difficult for taxi fleets to hire drivers? We know that some taxi drivers, they work as drivers because it's their interest, and for others, they want to have a job. That's why they continue to work as taxi drivers. With a taxi driving license, in future, you may apply for the online ride-hailing license. So is that the case? Will taxi drivers be allowed to drive ride-hailing cars, or will an additional cost be incurred? If not, then what incentives will there be for taxi drivers to drive online hailing cars? Because they could simply keep their taxi driving license. Also, I see that there won't be any management in terms of monitoring the number of online hailing cars, or how many drivers will there be driving these online hailing cars. We cannot ensure that there will be adequate supply of online ride-hailing service. I hope that under the overarching framework, we can sort out these details to better manage the situation. Secretary, let me try to respond to Mr. Lam's questions. I think drivers are definitely an important element. Regardless of how many online hailing cars there will be, we have to ensure that there will be drivers, irrespective of whether they work full-time or part-time, to ensure that there will be sustainable services. Take taxi drivers as an example. There are about 40,000 active taxi drivers. How come taxi fleets have been having difficulties with recruiting drivers? Now, a lot of times when we get on a taxi, we realize that the taxi drivers is quite old. So we cannot simply look at the number of taxi drivers available. We have to look at their age and also how tech-savvy they are. According to our survey, 70% of the interviewed taxi drivers told us that they've been making use of the online ride-hailing platforms, and 1/3 of them said they've been receiving orders online, and for 2/3 of the time they pick up passengers on the street. So we hope that we can keep up with this operation. Your second question is about attracting drivers to join the online ride-hailing industry. Well, of course, future drivers will have to pass an assessment before they can drive ride-hailing cars. They have to be familiar with the roads in Hong Kong, and they have to meet certain criteria before they can become online ride-hailing drivers. Taxi drivers currently have to go through a very stringent assessment system as well. So we're offering an additional option for taxi drivers. We think that there's no need to impose an additional assessment on taxi drivers for them to drive online hailing cars. Perhaps we'll ask them to take certain pre-service courses. On the other hand, we want to attract drivers to join the ride-hailing industry. That's why we ask them to pass an exam. However, the assessment should not be too stringent. so as not to impede drivers from joining the industry. So the Commissioner of Transport is currently enhancing the written test for taxi drivers, and at the same time they will look at how the assessment for future ride-hailing drivers should look like. We want taxi drivers to complement with drivers of online hailing cars. We want to attract more newcomers to join the industry. Next, Mr. Gary Zhang.
Mr. Gary Zhang, I support this proposal. I don't have any comments on the framework and the timetable. At this point in time, we have to build a consensus. With the consensus, we will then move on to talk about the fine details. This is understandable. The Secretary said on different occasions that for ride-hailing vehicles, basically people are doing this on a part-time basis, that this will stand us in good stead. By being part-time, it means that the carrying capacity can be flexible because the demand will be fluctuating throughout the day. So I'm more concerned about the insurance. How can we make sure that the insurance products would tie in with the part-time nature of these drivers? We have to pinpoint this particular nature. The other members have mentioned one vehicle, one driver arrangement, and people are not supposed to sub-rent their vehicles to other people. So much I understand as well. And this is another area that we have to insist. Third, in relation to the age of the vehicles, I think we are a little bit too generous in Shanghai, London, Shenzhen. Normally, their age would be 3 to 5 years. Now we pitch it at 7 years. And I mean, the vehicle can be running for as long as 12 years by the end of the licensing. So this is something that should be considered further. Now the government said that for these ride-hailing service, there will be a levy to support the development of the entire industry. I think in reality and morally, there is a need for us to do so. It is well justified, but I hope that you will support the frontline drivers. And this is going to be fairer an approach. I think you should do something to reduce the operating costs on the part of the drivers. Maybe we can offer them some concession in terms of the charging of the vehicles. If you can render assistance to the drivers, would be good. Secretary, insurance, and this has been addressed. The age of the vehicle and the fund. Yes, first of all, about the age and the fund. Perhaps before I say this, let me say a little bit about this. I heard many comments that with ride-hailing service, it is supplementary in nature. The taxis are the primary provider of the personalized point-to-point service, but during peak time, there is a complementarity arising from the ride-hailing service. Now, with the regulatory framework being in place, we would attract drivers to provide the service on a part-time basis. And there may be some drivers who would like to get more orders and provide more service. I think we should gather all the data, the insurance, and also the provision of services. The data would be important. So going forward, we will look into this. We don't really want to be managing to a certain extent, we will stymie the development, but that there would be a need for a regulation. You mentioned the fund. I heard what you had to say. We are open to options. If we can get some levy, how are we going to be using the resources? Indeed, we'd like to hear more comments from those who were involved in these point-to-point service. We'd like to make it beneficial to the traveling public. You also mentioned, yes, age of the vehicles. Over the past couple of days, we heard diverse views. Some said it is too stringent, while others is not, said that we're not going far enough. Now, people using the ride-hailing service feel that the taxis that they hail, that they flag down on the street, may be a little bit older, and we understand that people would like to be traveling in comfort. They like to have better travel experience, and that's the starting point. So when we look at the age of the vehicles, now we have the inspection for the private vehicles. When they hit the 7th year, the vehicles have to be subject to inspection. That's the dividing line. But we are prepared to listen to more views. We don't really want to stymie the supply, and we really want to maintain good travel experience. Mr. Ben Chen, Chairman, thank you. Now, the administration is proposing this regulatory framework. It shows the government's determination and commitment. Determination, because this has been going on for some considerable time, and there is a need for determination to tackle it. Commitment, that this is a controversial issue. I think it is a demonstration of good commitment on the part of the government to tackle this. Now, with the framework in place, is going to provide protection to the passengers, and it's going to be good for the healthy development of the trade. I support the two-step approach. We should have the framework first, and then we move on to the subsidiary legislation. And as regards the limit, there is an upper limit there. Now we look at other jurisdictions, like in Shenzhen, they have hundreds of thousands of ride-hailing vehicles. I don't think in Hong Kong we will be able to cope with such a massive upsurge in the number of vehicles. So I think it makes sense to impose a cap on the number. I've got some suggestions here, if I may. According to the paper, the data will have to be kept in Hong Kong. So when the government is going down the legislative path, you will have to make sure that the data will be accessible to the government. It can be used by the government, because when we develop smart traffic and transport, these kind of data would be really precious for the government. Second, about the aggregator platform, that each platform would have their own data, and if we can have some aggregator platform which can mobilize the vehicles, it may be good. But when you consider the details, you should make sure that something is done about this. The Secretary also mentioned the issue of involution or cutthroat competition. If cutthroat competition is emerging, it will be detrimental to the entire transport scene. It's about time, Mr. Ben Chen. Are you going to be yielding the floor to the administration? Yeah, making my comments. I think we have to guard against some scenario where the licensees are lying dormant. They're not really using the license as well as they should. Now, these are precious resources. We have to guard against this kind of scenario. And also assessment. Now, you have the taxi license and also the ride-hailing driver's license. They are similar in nature. Is the government going to be merging the two? Now, with one single license, you can be a taxi driver. You can also be an online hailing hire car driver. It would be easier. Right, some comments, some questions, Secretary. Will you be responding to this in brief, please? Chairman, thank you. I heard what Mr. Chen had to say. We will register all these points and look into them in detail. As regards the data, as I said a moment ago, this is important. So in the legislation, we will make clear the arrangement regarding the storage and access to the data. Now, you also mentioned the assessment. I defer to the Commissioner to brief members on some of the preliminary ideas that they have. Will you make it brief, Commissioner, please? Chairman, as the Secretary said at the moment, if you have a taxi license and they have passed the test regarding this point-to-point service, and if they want to operate the car ride-hailing service, they will be able to do so. But if there are a new breed of drivers who will join the rank of the ride-hailing cars, there should be some assessment to make sure that there would be some good protection for the passengers and safety for the passengers. The members are suggesting that the test content would be similar, and we shouldn't be doing anything to stifle the development. Now, we are conducting a comprehensive review of the test for taxi drivers. We will certainly be looking at this likewise. All right, members. There are 10 members on the list, myself included. I'm looking at the time. It's going to be taking us about an hour, and we may not be able to have a go at the second item. So I'm just consulting you. We are discussing this issue, which is really dear and near to our heart. So I'm allowing more time for the interaction. So we may exhaust all the time that we have for this meeting just on this particular item. And I hope that members would allow more time for the Secretary to respond to your points. Mr. Chen Hoffeng. Chairman, thank you. I think on the question of regulating ride-hailing service, the government is really rising to the challenges. It does take a lot of determination to tackle this particular issue with so many interests at stake. I support this move, and I support the regulatory framework. We're regulating the drivers, the platforms, and the vehicles. Well, I think the entry point for drivers and vehicles should be lower. But I think the threshold for the platform should be the key thing that we should consider, because the platforms do have a lot of resources, a lot of data, a lot of information. I think in the legislative framework, there should be more stringent requirements for the platforms. After the paper has been published, many people are telling me that we have the offense points for the taxi drivers. Are you going to be replicating this offense points system for the ride-hailing drivers to level the playing field? This is important because if you don't have a level playing field, how else are you going to be fair to everybody? Second, they think that it's not fair in terms of vehicles. As taxis, some of them are really old. That you are pitching the threshold at 7 years. Why is it that You don't let the market decide. Let the market pick and choose. If the vehicles are too old, people will shy away from these vehicles. But I think we have to regulate the platform. Let's say on a daily basis, we have to make sure that the number of vehicles should not be exceeding a certain number, and the platform can regulate this. I must say that I'm fully supportive of the regulatory framework. As to the details, I think these can be discussed going forward.
Secretary, questions about the age of vehicle and the offense point system. We need clear and stringent requirements, and we have to ensure the platforms and drivers are liable. Secondly, on the offense point system, currently under the taxi drivers offense point system, serious offenses such as detouring, refusal for hire, or overcharging are covered under the system. For ride-hailing services, they are done through online platforms, so we don't have the same concern about the drivers, but we will look at the details very carefully. I think we want drivers to reach a certain qualification and pass the assessment, and this is the consensus we have. However, at the end of the day, we'll have to achieve a balance to ensure that we can increase the service quality of ride-hailing services. Dr. Eric Yim, thank you. I support this regulatory framework. I have two questions. First, in the mainland and other countries, there are cases where online hailing car drivers sexually assaulted the passengers. According to the government's gazette, all taxis will have the dash camera and the relevant recording system installed. In future, in case any incidents took place in ride-hailing cars, how will the government deal with the complaints to protect the interests of drivers and passengers? Also, in the mainland, ride-hailing platforms, in order to attract passengers, they offer discounts to passengers. Say, for example, if you store $1,000 onto the platform, you get $200 of rebate. What are the risks behind this kind of value storing system? If anything happens to the platform, passengers' money will be gone. I mean the money that's saved on the platform. So will you put in place a guarantee system involving banks in the future to ensure the interests of passengers are protected? Secretary, I thank Dr. Eric Yim for the two questions. On the mandatory installation of the recording systems, this is to protect the interests and safety of both drivers and passengers. Many drivers, they are single vehicle owners. So it is very important for us to safeguard the interests of these drivers. Just now, Mr. Chang Hok-fung said, future online platforms will play a very important role. In case there are any disputes between passengers and drivers in the future, we will ask the online platforms to play an important role and to take up a serious responsibility. In future, I believe platform companies will ask ride-hailing cars to have the relevant recording system installed as well. As to whether passengers will have to prepay for the ride-hailing services in the future, during my visit to the mainland, I did get feedback about this. I think in future we have to regulate the platforms to protect consumers' interests. Next, Mr. Michael Luke. Chairman, I support this regulatory framework. Many of the proposals here are in line with the suggestions the FTU made a year ago. And this is in line with the suggestions made by the transport and traffic industry as well. I think this proposal will ensure a fair competition, and we will see a win-win situation between passengers, drivers, as well as the industry. Passengers will be given more options, and drivers will be regulated. And we will ensure sustainable development by minimizing uncertainties. This will help resolve the problems brought by the so-called white licensed cars over the past 10 years or so. This will help tackle the issue of white licensed cars. This is because the administration can only catch those driving white licensed cars now. We have no way to regulate the online platforms currently. Well, I think in future there needs to be a coordination mechanism among the three parties. Well, this is not included in the current proposal yet, so the three parties will include drivers, platform companies, as well as the government. In terms of fare setting, algorithm, protection for drivers, these can all be dealt with by the coordination mechanism. Without such a mechanism, there might be disputes and conflicts in the future. With a coordination mechanism, we can come up with a decision or a proposal that's acceptable to all three parties. Also, we attach importance to the quality of the future ride-hailing vehicles. Some members brought about the issue about the age of vehicle. I'd like to talk about the specification of the vehicles. Should there be regulation on the fuel used by vehicles? What if there are drivers that use a K car for running his business? This will affect our international image. I think we have to ensure a certain level of specification and standards for these vehicles to ensure a pleasant experience for travelers. Also, we should ask drivers to drive electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles to ensure that they are environmentally friendly. Also, how can you ensure that there will be a standardized platform for people to have access to ride-hailing services? I heard some online hailing car drivers from the mainland saying that they ask passengers to book their services directly without going through the online platforms. How can you prevent this kind of problems? Secretary, please be brief. Well, our party concerns about the coordination mechanism the most. Secretary, I've heard Mr. Luke's comments. We will think about them. Just now you mentioned how the government can coordinate with drivers as well as the future online platforms. We hope that we can, through the relevant Drivers Association as well as Mr. Michael Luke, we can communicate with drivers more frequently. Drivers is an important part of this mechanism. We want to help drivers increase their income. We want to offer an additional option to them. This can help ensure drivers' interests. We want to make good use of drivers' capacity to achieve the vision we have under this framework. In future, as we draft the bill, we hope that there could be communication among different parties. We'll listen to stakeholders' views to make sure that we can satisfy the needs of them and that we can deal with the detailed issues. We will continue to listen to people's views. I think most of the members who have spoken support this framework. Next, Mr. Frankie Yik. I welcome this framework. The taxi trade is not against the idea of having the coexistence of both taxis and ride-hailing cars. They just want to have a fair competition. We got a letter from them. I want to bring up a few points. Just now, some members mentioned about the age of the ride-hailing vehicles. For taxi fleets, you ask them to have vehicles not older than 3 years, but for online hailing cars, it's 7 years. It costs about 100,000 to buy a second-hand car now, but if you buy a taxi, it costs over $200,000. So there's a huge gap between the operating costs, and that gives rise to unfair competition. And one thing that's not mentioned by this paper is about the pricing and the fare mechanism. As we all know, taxi drivers cannot offer cutthroat price to attract passengers. The taxi drivers that offer a 20% off discount, they are illegal. Well, we've got complaints from the taxi trade recently. That's because online platforms may charge a passenger $20 only for an $80 ride. So how can taxi drivers survive? Taxi drivers are charging a regulated fare now, so the fare to be charged by the online platform should not be lower than that. There is a formula for the fare that is based on the journey distance. You can derive a fare. Well, these online hailing cars should play a supplementary role. Say, for example, during peak hours, there's no problem to have these online hailing services. We welcome this. However, if it is much cheaper for you to get a ride-hailing service, then that's not fair for taxi drivers, because taxi drivers cannot use the same gimmick to attract passengers. So we should set a floor for the fare. Now, in future, a number of licenses will be issued to platform companies as well as ride-hailing drivers. Say, for example, I get on a car, but I don't know if the car is licensed, and there's a car accident, and I don't get compensation from the insurance company. Then how should I deal with the situation? How can I ensure that the car I get on is issued with a license? This is to protect passengers' safety. Today we're talking about the framework. We can sort out the details later. In the interim period, will you allow the online hailing cars to continue to provide services? Secretary, 2 questions about the age of vehicles, and the other questions are about the transitional arrangement and the fare. Secretary, let me reiterate again. As mentioned by the Chief Executive, we have to enhance the service quality of taxis. At the same time, we have to regulate online hailing car services. For those that commit illegal carriage of passengers for hire, we have to combat this acts. Many stakeholders' interests are involved. If we sort out the details and prepare for the legislation, we will take into account the above factors. as to how people will be able to identify whether a ride-hailing vehicle is licensed, I'll ask the Permanent Secretary to supplement. There will be ways for us to identify legitimate cars. We understand that taxi drivers, a lot of time they work on a full-time basis, but for online hailing drivers, they provide service on a part-time basis. It's easy for us to identify a taxi because you can judge from the appearance of the vehicle. We will think of ways for people to identify a legitimate ride-hailing car. We will take into account all the factors mentioned by the Secretary just now. Next, Mrs. Regina Ip. Thank you, Chairman. I very much support the proposal made by the government. As said by the Secretary, the issues surrounding online hailing services have been existed for over 10 years. Online hailing services are very common in other places. Overseas visitors find it unbelievable to not be able to get online hailing services in Hong Kong. I think the taxi trade as well as online hailing services, they are two separate markets. According to the Taxi Council, we have 690,000 people using taxis and 190,000 passengers making use of ride-hailing services. In future, these services can coexist. In Singapore, ride-hailing services are common, but there are also taxis on the road. This is because if you go to a taxi stand, you're guaranteed that you can get on a taxi. So I think we have to tackle the issues. I know that the government is facing a lot of uncertainties because you don't know how the future market will respond. As to the number of licenses to be issued, how many drivers there should be, of course you'll have to sort out the details, so I support the two-phased approach.
So we should get on with the principal legislation amendment first before we move on to the subsidiary legislation. Para 28 mentioned the Australian model where they have a levy from the fare to support the taxi industry. Now, how did they support the taxi industry? I think for every sector, they should try to secure the customers by virtue of their quality of the service. How is it going to work in your mind? A levy, Secretary? Thanks very much, Ms. Yip, for the question. Now, on this particular point, we heard some comments in the community that we should reference other parts of the world. Now, we cite this Australian model. They have the trip-based levy. The levy would go into a fund in support of the taxi industry. In Hong Kong, we keep our options open here. We'd like to hear more views as to how we can support the taxi industry or the point-to-point service. The idea is to upgrade the service for the benefit of the traveling public. Now, Mr. Gary Zhang and other members mentioned that we should attract the drivers to the trade, and that should be something that would be serving as an incentive for them, so that they will improve their service and they will be doing more to serve the traveling public. We'd like to be fair, and we'd like to be fair in the provision of the resources for the benefit of the traveling public. It's not our intention to subsidize one sector from another sector. When we examine the legislation, I'm sure that there would be more room for us to mull over this particular issue. Mr. Perry, you, Chairman, I am in support of the legislative proposal for the ride-hailing service, and I have to commend the administration for showing the determination to tackle these thorny issues. Now, the ride-hailing service is some livelihood issue as much as a transport issue. The number of users take up about 40%. So it makes sense for us to have legislative control to provide better protection to the passengers. And this is something that we have to do. We understand that there are so many individual inbound travelers, and there is a keen demand for the point-to-point transport service. And high-quality point-to-point transport service would mean a great deal to the image of Hong Kong as a tourist destination. So I think this proposed regulatory framework will fill the gap that has been existing for such a long time, and this will also meet the needs of many of the passengers. And the taxis and the ride-hailing vehicles can play their distinct roles. Now, this is by way of a comment. Also, Mr. Frankie Yik made a point, which is also of concern to me. How can we make sure that the traveling public, or indeed the visitors, would know straight away that these vehicles are legitimate ride-hailing vehicles? The Secretary addressed this a little bit, but I think it is terribly important for us to make sure that people know that these vehicles are legit. Another point is the issue of the hire car permit. There are 2,300 hire car permits in Hong Kong, and there are three different types: private vehicles, travel and hotel, private cars. We haven't quite hit the limit yet. There is room for further applications, but from the trade, we understand that after COVID, that there are family visitors who may use these private vehicles for in-depth tour, and the demand is getting ever larger. But the threshold for getting these kind of licenses would be exceedingly high. So bear in mind the new trend of travel, will the administration be prepared to relax the criteria for these kind of private vehicle hire car permits? Secretary? Now, with this regulatory framework, how can we satisfy the demand of the visitors who are used to these kind of online ride-hailing services? That this will certainly be conducive to these visitors. Yet you mentioned the hire car permits and the regulation there. It is a separate issue from the issue that we are discussing today. Now you talk about the procedures, the requirements. We had discussions with the trade, and we would be optimizing or enhancing the arrangement. We will be following this up with the Transport Department to identify room for improvement. Mr. Kenneth Lau, Chairman, it is an inevitable trend to develop the ride-hailing service. Now, the administration is proposing the regulatory framework regarding drivers, platforms, and vehicles, and licenses have to be obtained, and there are measures to allow the taxi drivers to move over to the ride-hailing driving. And I think there should be more arrangement to facilitate healthy competition and strike a proper balance there. And I'm delighted to see this happen. I hope that this framework will be in place as soon as possible. And this is a very important step forward regarding the ride-hailing service. And this is eliminating a lot of the uncertainties and the two kinds of vehicles that would be existing side by side. Now, my question then here is, innovative technology is having a great deal of bearing on society. Now, the government has introduced a platform. I mean, there is a platform for taxi drivers to get booking, and the orders would be digitalized, and they are using technology to run the business. And it is really a success. Now, this system would monitor the passengers in real time, and they would deploy the vehicles to pick up the passengers. Will the administration, I mean, this system is run in Shenzhen. Will the administration be referencing this Shenzhen model and provide financial incentives for taxi trade to use this kind of platform to facilitate the booking of taxi service? And that certainly would enhance the competitiveness of the taxi trade. Well, will the administration be introducing a ride-hailing platform? Secretary, no, we are moving in the same direction. Now, for taxis to provide ride-hailing service, and in society, there are some platform companies like the Octopus that is liaising with these taxi fleets and make available the information on a consolidated platform. And the administration has been promoting this. We do encourage this, in fact. As we are setting up this regulatory framework, we would be happy to see that these ride-hailing platforms will provide the service to the traveling public, and we do encourage the platforms to allow the taxi drivers to get integrated or to get admitted to the platform so that they would also be able to get booking from the platform as well. All right, there are 3 more members on the list. And looking at the clock, we will be able to fit in these 3 members, and we're likely to start with the second item. So please maximize the time. Ms. Connie Lam. Chairman, thank you. Secretary, under your stewardship, the administration is facing up to this issue, and I think this is something that should be commended. I don't think this issue admits of any further delay. I look forward to more details. There are 2 questions from me, if I may. The first one is the age of the vehicles. Now, the taxi drivers are concerned about this. Now, you have the limit of, in terms of the age of the vehicles, I mean, it's no more than 7 years. And previously, you had a system where the age of taxis should be no more than 3 years. the taxi fleets have shelled out $400,000 to acquire the new vehicles, and there seems to be a bit of unfairness there. Second, taxi drivers and ride-hailing drivers will have to get a license. Now, if the young drivers would like to join the trade, would they be more interested in taking the test for the ride-hailing driver's permit instead of the taxi license? So the taxi trade would be running out of drivers. Right, Secretary, some of the questions have been addressed. Will you supplement?
Well, we touched on these two questions just now. On the age of the vehicle, we try to strike a balance. We want to protect passengers' safety and to ensure an adequate supply of ride-hailing cars. Also, we value the feedback we got from the industry. We want the two industries to have a fair competition. We want them to complement each other. In sorting out the details, we will achieve a very good balance, and we will seek commonalities between the two trades. Now, on the point about assessment, as the Commissioner mentioned, we are proactively reviewing the written exams for taxi drivers. We want to enhance the exam system. At the same time, we will look at how we should impose the assessment on future ride-hailing drivers. Our vision is to attract new blood to the industry. At the same time, we want to offer more options to taxi drivers. Also, we do want to have more drivers joining the taxi trade as well. In sorting out the details, we continue to listen to views from different stakeholders. Thank you. Mr. Michael Teen. Thank you, Chairman. The roundtable back in 2016 has been calling for regulation of ride-hailing services because there is such a demand for the services. However, over the years, we have had illegal ride-hailing services in Hong Kong. Well, do you believe that I have never once called for these ride-hailing services? Well, the police has conducted decoy operation and made arrests. With lawful ride-hailing services in future, it will give people peace of mind. The administration said there will be a cap on the number of online hailing cars in future. Well, we think that there should be at least 10,000 vehicle permits to be issued to online hailing cars in future. We don't have the relevant figures in terms of the number of private cars offering illegal ride-hailing services now. Well, if there is a cap, then we don't have to worry about the indefinite expansion of these services in future. We have 6 million people in Singapore. We have in total 72,000 taxis and ride-hailing cars. Well, with our suggestion, there will just be 27,000 taxis and ride-hailing cars in Hong Kong. We have 22,000 taxis and 130,000 ride-hailing cars in Shenzhen. And in New York, we have a lot more ride-hailing cars. So even with 17,000 taxis and 10,000 ride-hailing cars, we still have a smaller number of ride-hailing cars in Hong Kong compared to taxis. So we want to eliminate the unlawful platforms, unlawful drivers, and unlawful ride-hailing vehicles. You said that there will be an interim assessment, and there will be a low entry threshold, and there will be a 1-year validity period for the licenses to be issued, and they can be renewed. These are all great ideas. We support them. Our suggestion is to have a central complaint handling platform. Well, what does that mean? Mr. Michael Teen, please make your questions clear. Please leave time for the Secretary to respond to your questions. Well, I have 4 minutes. If online platform companies do not take actions, the complaints should be referred to the administration. In case there are serious breaches of the licensing conditions, be it the driver or the vehicle owner, the ride-hailing car concerned should not have the licenses renewed. Well, this is to remind drivers of hailing cars to keep their service level. We have to be clear who are renting the vehicles. So our concept is that we have to make good use of the ride-hailing cars. We should have these ride-hailing service 24/7. Secretary, I've noted Mr. Michael Teen's comments. His ideas are very comprehensive and forward-looking. We need to forge a consensus as soon as possible for the overarching framework. We have to offer a clear framework. And what Mr. Teen said is from the perspective of regulation. In future, we will regulate online hailing services as well as online platforms. This is because we regard them as part of the public transport service, like other service operators. The Transport Department, as a regulator, will stringently monitor the operation as well as the service performance of future platforms. On Mr. Michael Teen's comments, I believe that there will be many occasions where we can exchange our ideas in future. Well, do you agree that we should make good use of the ride-hailing cars? Well, Mr. Michael Teen, your time is up. Perhaps you can, through other channels, talk to the Secretary and the Transport and Logistics Bureau. Now it's my turn. A number of members have expressed their views on the regulatory framework. They support the framework. I support it as well. I have a couple of questions on the details. Paragraph 20 of the paper says that there needs to be information concerning the operation of future platforms, and the information will have to be submitted to the government. Well, this is crucial. This will allow the Transport Department to have a full grasp of the situation concerning point-to-point transport services. This will help you manage the traffic. What have you thought about the ownership of the data? Well, the data may be passed on to you, but you don't own the data. The data will be very valuable when it comes to traffic management as well as autonomous driving. So please think about it if you haven't thought about it yet. My second question. Future ride-hailing car drivers, they will be charged a different fee when they go through the tunnels and the road harbor crossings. For taxi drivers, the fare is about $25 to $28. In future, will ride-hailing car drivers be charged the same fare as taxi drivers, or will they be regarded as private car drivers in terms of the fees to be charged? Also, for taxi drivers nowadays, a lot of them, they join the ride-hailing platforms, and they offer online hailing services as well. In case there are issues concerning the regulation or the operation of these taxi drivers, which legislation or ordinance will you cite to deal with any irregularities? Will you cite the ordinance concerning taxi drivers or those that regulate ride-hailing cars? Secretary. On the point about data, as mentioned in our paper, well, it is our vision to collect the data, and the DOJ as well as our bureau will look at who should own the data? Well, for certain operational data which is crucial to our regulation, will ensure that these data are properly stored and that the government will have access to them. For some data, they concern analysis or research studies. They may have their value too. And we will talk to the platforms about how we should make use of the data. We want to ensure data security. And we don't want to deviate from the practices of other places to ensure that the actual operation and practice will be smooth. As for the fees to be charged for crossing the tunnels, well, we will look into the issue. I believe this is an issue close to many people's heart as well. Lastly, on law enforcement, we will look at the relationship between this particular primary legislation as well as other traffic and transport related ordinances. We will make clear the relations. As we formulate this overarching framework, we will study the relations between the different legislations with the Department of Justice. We hope that we will be able to offer a clear explanation to members in the future. We have had 17 members speak on this topic. I believe the majority of the members who have spoken support the regulatory framework and the legislative amendments proposed to the primary legislation. I urge the Secretary to work in full steam on the legislative amendment. We hope that you'll be able to table the proposed legislative amendments to the primary legislation to this Council. We will try to be cooperative. If there needs to be extra meetings, I believe members don't mind working on scrutinizing the bill. We hope that we'll be able to forge a consensus on the framework. And once we've passed the bill, if the administration is of the view that it's time to make the subsidiary legislations, well, we hope that the administration will press ahead with that. This is an issue that had not been dealt with over the past 11 years, so we do want to tackle this as early as possible. Well, there being no further questions, we'll wrap up this item now. I thank the Secretary as well as the other government representatives for joining this item. Thank you. It's now around 12:30. If members don't mind, I suggest that we extend this meeting by about 15 minutes. Then we'll have at least half an hour to discuss the next topic. That's implementation of smart mobility initiatives. Members, please refer to the paper provided by the administration. That's LC paper number CB-31119/2025-03. I'll ask the staff to invite the government representatives to join us first. Attending this item, we have Mr. Edward Mack, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Logistics. We also have representatives from the Transport and Logistics Bureau, the Transport Department, as well as the police. I'm not going to read out their names one by one. Their names are set out on the agenda. Members who'd like to speak, please press the request to speak button. I'd like to have an idea of how many members would like to speak on this item. And depending on the progress, I'll extend the meeting by at least 15 minutes, and then I'll decide whether there's the need to further extend the meeting. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Edward Mack to walk us through the paper. I understand that there is a PowerPoint presentation, is that right? Oh, please be brief. I believe our members have all read the paper. Because this item was supposed to be discussed at the previous meeting. My apologies, we weren't able to have a discussion on this in the previous meeting, and I hope there could be a discussion on this at this meeting.
Chairman, thank you. In December 2017, the administration published the Smart City Blueprint. There are a number of proposals. We're using smart technology to improve life. And in 2017, we published the Smart Mobility Roadmap, and then we had the Smart City Blueprint 2.0. The whole idea is to improve the traffic situation and to harness technology. Under the proposals, we're using the sensors, AI, big data analytics to cope with the demand arising from traffic and transport to provide better travel experience for the traveling public. There are three principles: the smart transport infrastructure, data sharing and analytics, and technology application and services. These are the three areas that we are focusing our attention on. The administration has rolled out a whole host of initiatives. We have brought the panel up to date on a regular basis regarding the funding and the various initiatives. We benefited a lot from members' wisdom, and this will be conducive to our development of the initiatives. I'm grateful to members' support. We are focusing today on autonomous vehicle technologies, advanced vehicle technologies, automated parking systems, and electronic licensing. And Chairman, I'll be deferring to the Transport Department to highlight some of the measures and the progress, and then we welcome questions from members. Yes, make it brief and make it efficient, please. The self-driving vehicles framework has been implemented, and we have published the code of practice. Under the new AV framework, we issued the AV pilot licenses and AV certificate. At the moment, there are two projects that have been awarded the AV licenses. There are 30 for North Lantau, and there are 2 vehicles for the WKCD project. The North Lantau project, it started, it has been achieving good progress, and within a couple of months, we have achieved some leap in technology. For advanced driver's assistance system, we are introducing this level 2 system. This is used in the for the drivers. As to enhanced or the electronic licensing, in 2024 we have introduced the enhanced vehicle license, and we also have the licensing portal, and the electronic driving license has also been introduced, and this will be extended to other permits and 20 other services. As to the international circulation permit, we will be introducing the legislative amendments to the Council. Mr. Chen, on the 15th of June, we started issuing the electronic traffic ticket, real-time adaptive traffic signal system. We have installed that for 5 independent signalized junctions. We also tested this at 8 linked signalized junctions. and things are moving pretty smoothly. We will be extending this to 50 independent signalized junctions for completion in 2027. We'll be testing out the mainland technology as well. By the end of 2024, we implemented the smart motorway pilot scheme at Ting Kau Bridge. Southbound, we will monitor the situation, and depending on the data, we will be assessing the effectiveness. We have the 24-hour monitoring system to monitor government tunnels and major trunk roads. We will employ technology to improve tunnel management. In terms of automated parking system, there are 5 public car parks that will be using automated parking system: Yamate, Manshan, and Chiwenshan. The APS will be installed. The government has set up the Smart Traffic Fund to support entities and institutions to carry out studies. The government is also conducting traffic and transport strategy study with a view to publishing the transport strategy blueprint, which will be announced within this year. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's now time for questions. On the list, we have 5 members, and they're Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Mr. Gary Zhang, Mr. Perrin Yu, Mr. Frankie Yik, and Mr. Dominic Lee. 4 minutes for the Q&A. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Chairman, thank you. First of all, I like to declare that I'm sitting on the board of the Airport Authority. The paper mentions the automated parking system. The Airport Authority at the Hong Kong Port Island, the automated parking system is being built. So by way of declaration, I think that in many areas, in terms of traffic, road design, management, inevitably we will be deploying new technology. So I'm in support of everything in the paper. Now, you may be using the technology, but the most important thing is to address the issue of supply. I keep talking about these parking services, whether you are using the conventional means or the new means. Vehicles will have to be parked somewhere unless they are on the road. And you have to meet the demand. And it is really a bit of a tall order for you to meet the demand. Previously, I suggested that 1/3 of the commercial vehicles will have to be parked illegally on the road because of the insufficiency of parking spaces. Maybe in some of the remote areas, the vehicles can be allowed to be parked on the road overnight. Now, this is a separate subject for another day. And I have actually mentioned this on more than one occasion. I hope that the government will take it on board. There are some sections for which this arrangement is made. I hope that this can be extended. Looking forward, autonomous vehicles will be the way to go in many cities in the mainland. They are moving very, very fast with regard to autonomous vehicles. Hong Kong is lagging behind. Now, this is not pie in the sky. This is something that will be happening in the future, and we have to make preparation for that. In fact, I have to declare that the AA is trialing autonomous vehicles. But what is the policy in Hong Kong in this regard? Mr. Mack? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Low. The member mentioned the demand for parking in Hong Kong. Indeed, recently we have submitted some information to the transport panel, and we are attaching a great deal of importance to the issue of parking for commercial vehicles. Dr. Low mentioned in the new territories at night time, maybe we set aside some space for commercial vehicles. We are looking at this. When we announce the strategic transport study, we will certainly announce more details. Autonomous vehicle, we're looking at the policy, the regulation, and the finance. I'm grateful to members for endorsing a new framework. And over the past year, we have been speeding up the trialing of autonomous vehicles. At North Lantau, there is a trial project within a matter of 6 months. We have enhanced the speed. This is covering from Dongchong to other areas. We are elevating the number from 1 vehicle to 10 vehicle, and we are contemplating other areas as well. So we are moving along in this direction. In the strategic traffic study, we will certainly explain to members further projects. Mr. Gary Zhang. Chairman, I'm also concerned about the autonomous driving, in particular autonomous vehicles. This year, the Bureau and the Department have been redoubling their efforts to take this forward, and they have achieved pretty remarkable achievements. Now, first of all, the smart mobility roadmap, or it was published in 2019, 6 years on. We haven't had 374AA legislation, and maybe we have gone through 3 generations of vehicles. Now we should do something about the autonomous vehicle and also the advanced vehicle technologies. The government is having good regulation, but there is an information gap. Many manufacturers are not aware of what is happening in Hong Kong in this regard. I think we should have a roadmap. We should publish a statement to fill the information gap so that the top-notch manufacturers would be interested in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is enjoying a pretty good condition to develop this further. Second, the North Lantau project, the progress has been satisfactory. We can see how much progress we have achieved. Now, there is another license that has been issued. It would be expiring in October, 2 months away or so. According to the government information, they are opening up the trial to passenger carrying, and this has not been completed. And there's the 2,800 kilometer one. Now, there is a learning curve. Of course, if the technologies are not good enough, maybe they cannot even pass the first stage. I think there should be a mechanism where we can cancel the license and discontinue the trial, and that would be a protection for us. I mean, it would be far better than issuing the license and not achieving any particular progress for a long time. Mr. Mack? Chairman, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be deferring to the TD regarding the AV licenses and how we can promote the trial of autonomous vehicles. Mr. Gary Zhang also made another point. I thank Mr. Zhang for promoting autonomous driving in Hong Kong, and you've been getting in touch with many enterprises, for which we are grateful. Indeed, we will be stepping up the publicity. We are at an advanced stage. We have the legislative framework in place, the technological level, from level 0 to 5, we are at level 4. We are aligned with the mainland, and we'll be attracting enterprises to come to Hong Kong in collaboration. And there are some enterprises that will be coming to Hong Kong to join this particular field. I defer to the Transport Department.
Mr. Ho. In the Tung Chung project, well, the progress is not very satisfactory. The management committee of the fund has been monitoring the progress of the project, and we have intervened where appropriate to ensure that there will be a smooth development. Well, I think we need an exit arrangement rather than support to these projects. Well, within the committee, we've been reviewing the progresses of these projects. Where we find it suitable, we will terminate these projects. Mr. Perry, you. Over the past few years, we have seen results yielded by the administration as it tries to implement the smart mobility initiatives. I hope the administration will keep up with the good work. I'm more concerned about data sharing and data analytics. Well, from the driver's perspectives, we always use our GPS system to check which route is the fastest. Well, for the map system I'm using, it is very accurate. And it is commonly used in the mainland as well. It's called Gouda Maps. And it gives you real-time update of information as well. For some reasons, when the map is used in Hong Kong, it's not as accurate. It doesn't provide real-time information in Hong Kong. So I'm wondering if it's because there's something wrong with the system, or does it have to do with the information dissemination system in Hong Kong? Is it because there's no data sharing between the local system as well as the platform? If there could be real-time integration between our system with this kind of navigation system to enhance the accuracy, it would enhance passengers and drivers' experiences, and this will also be very helpful to traffic management. Well, would the administration explain the situation to me, please? Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the Deputy Chair for the questions. Now, data sharing is a major part of smart mobility. We have to collect the data. We have been collecting data and we analyze the data. For example, we use big data analytics to analyze the data from the Hong Kong Observatory, and we use that analysis to project what will happen in the next 90 minutes in terms of the impact of weather on the traffic condition. And this data can be used by Gouda Maps and other platforms. And thanks to the Legislative Council for approving the funding proposal, we have been able to roll out the traffic light system. And through the system, we are able to get real-time data about the traffic condition. And all these help us to make our platforms more accurate. Let's see if the Transport Department has anything to add about data sharing. Mr. Ho, take out the maps as an example. As far as I understand, in the mainland, take traffic lights as an example. The data are not provided by the local government. The timing for the green light at each junction is fixed and can be projected. So in Hong Kong, the system can estimate the time of our traffic lights as well. Say, for example, the cycle for the change of signals is different, then the real-time information may not be able to be sent to the platform immediately. So we have encountered some difficulties in this regard. We try to open up our data as much as possible. We try to put as much data as possible on our platform so that any third parties, such as the Gouda Maps platform, can make use of the data. We are trying to move towards this direction. Next, Mr. Frankie Yake. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the administration for providing the latest information. I have two questions. First, I'd like to follow up on Dr. Lo Wai Kwok's question about parking spaces. The purpose for rolling out the smart mobility initiatives is to ensure smooth traffic and a pleasant experience for travelers. Well, people get angry when they aren't able to find a parking space. So, two things. I think in terms of the number of parking spaces for private cars, it has improved, but I think the ratio should be 1 to 1.3 to tackle the problem. For commercial vehicles, it still stands at about 0.6. I hope the administration will be lenient. If you get any unfounded complaints, I hope you will deal with the complaints in a lenient manner instead of issuing tickets every time to commercial vehicles. Also, I wonder if the Deputy Secretary paid attention to the motion debate yesterday about elderly people. Well, you are testing out the timer for green traffic lights. Well, what is the conclusion? Will you roll out the system? Well, a number of members mentioned yesterday in the debate that it is a good system because we don't want our elderly to rush through the lights. So, what is your view? Deputy Secretary. We provided some supplementary information to this panel. We expect that in the coming 2 years, we will have 12,000 new parking spaces. We believe we'll be able to create more parking spaces. It's just that we haven't had a grasp of the number of short-term tenancy parking spaces yet. We will continue to adopt a single-site, multiple-use approach. If we're able to identify sites for parking spaces, we'll definitely do that. We will designate a certain ratio of parking spaces for commercial vehicles. We are going to launch an automated parking system. We will enhance the system at night for commercial vehicles. And a few years ago, we amended the Hong Kong Planning and Standard Guidelines And for subsidized sale housing estate, we are increasing the number of parking spaces for commercial vehicles. So we are working hard on this, and as we draft the strategic blueprint, we will continue to listen to members' views. Now about the traffic lights, I'll defer to the Transport Department. Assistant Commissioner, on the countdown timer, well, about a decade ago, at over 10 spots, we tested out these timers. And that is when the green light starts flashing, we trigger the timer to allow pedestrians to cross the roads in a safer manner. But back then, we realized that the timer didn't really offer much help, and even when the green light started flashing, the pedestrians were still crossing the road. And last year, we started the timer again, and we saw some form of improvement. We've arranged for this kind of test in over 10 spots in Hong Kong, and we are carrying out the work now. In around fall, we'll be able to come up with a conclusion. We will share with you the outcome of our studies soon. Chairman, one quick point. Well, how people respond to traffic lights 10 years ago is very different from that now. Nowadays, pedestrians are more law-abiding. Even when there are no cars, they don't cross the road at red lights. So I hope that there could be this system in place as soon as possible. Transport Department, please think about whether there's a need to launch further testing schemes. And this kind of countdown system is in place in many places around the world and for many years. Now, in order to complete our discussion, I will extend this meeting by another 15 minutes if members agree. We all agree? Okay. Next, Mr. Dominic Lee. The administration is trying to improve the traffic network as well as the commuting of people through the smart mobility initiatives. People have high expectations on these initiatives. For example, there's a part about the real-time adaptive traffic signal system in your paper, and the test was successful in Tung Chung, and the system will be extended to 50 signalized junctions. Well, 50 is a small number. Last year, this panel went to Hangzhou and Shanghai for a duty visit. We visited the relevant facilities. Indeed, this is not a new technology on the market. It's quite mature now. How come you're not rolling out this system at all signalized junctions in Hong Kong? Second, about the automated parking system. According to the paper, the administration wants to encourage developers to introduce more of these automated parking systems. Have you offered any incentives for developers? For example, will there be extra GFA granted to developers? Are there other incentives in place? Or will you legislate to mandate developers to introduce this kind of automated parking systems? Deputy Secretary, now on the real-time adaptive traffic signal system. Last year, we asked for funding in this council, and we had a discussion with members about this, and Mr. Dominic Lee provided a lot of valuable comments. Our plan is this. We will first implement the system at separate or independent signalized junctions. That means these junctions are far away from other signalized junctions. By implementing the system, it will not affect the traffic flow. This is an easy approach, and the trial was implemented in these independent signalized junctions. And after that, we have selected 50 signalized junctions for this system. At the same time, we are testing out the system at linked signalized junctions in, for example, Tongcheng. And we're still testing out this system at linked signalized junctions on Hong Kong Island and in Kowloon. The test is more complicated for linked junctions. This is because if this system is put in place, it may affect the traffic flow at other junctions. We're trying out the technologies introduced in the mainland. And we realize that we need to introduce certain adjustments to the system in order to apply the same model. We're still trying to see whether we need further funding approval from the Legislative Council. We'll report to members in due course. Now, on the automated parking system, one way to promote it is to introduce guidelines for applications. We are drawing reference from practices in other places to see how we can lower the cost for introducing this parking system, and we have been in talks with developers about this. I thank members of this council for helping us launch the pilot schemes. We're adopting the single-site multiple use system, and the results of the trials are offering confidence to developers to roll out this kind of parking system. And we will continue to carry out strategic study to see how we can introduce more automated parking systems.
It's my turn next, and like other members, I am concerned about the autonomous driving, and we are catching up in terms of technology, in terms of experience. We are learning from other jurisdictions' experience, and the administration is building up experience there. I've got three questions. The first one is the maturity of technology. The autonomous vehicles, when they're running on the road, would be collecting data on the roadside. And according to the administration, the data would have to be submitted to the TD. And this will be very useful in terms of transport or traffic planning. That the data is gathered together by the vehicles for submission to the TD. But would the ownership belongs? Would the ownership belong to the TD, or would the ownership still be in the hands of the autonomous vehicle? I'd like to ascertain the extent of the ownership. Second, now there are more and more AVs on the road, and they would be collecting a lot of the spatial data. If we have vulnerabilities in terms of cybersecurity, this would become a ticking time bomb, because this can become a tool to disrupt security. Now, we do have the code of practice for trial and pilot use of AVs, and there are safety measures that have to be put in place. But this is only the code of practice. In an ideal world, they should be observing the code. But if they don't, there is no penalty for violation. And will the administration be considering whether legislation would be put in place? If they violate the requirements, there would be some penalties. At the moment, you can discontinue with the trial, but in future, if they violate the rules, that it would be detrimental to the road users. Third, when you are testing the autonomous vehicles, the manufacturers would have their own algorithm and their own sensor system, do we really want to have one single set of sensors which can be compatible with different types of vehicles or different manufacturers? Shouldn't we have the same basis in terms of the algorithm and all the basic requirements? Now, if they did have vastly different criteria or systems, it may not be a desirable situation. Deputy Secretary, Chairman, thank you. I defer to the TD regarding the ownership of the data and the collection of the data. Now, let me say this first. Cybersecurity, like Chairman said, is important. This is one of the important considerations in issuing the license. They have to make sure that they are good enough in terms of data security. In Hong Kong, we have the cybersecurity ordinance that will be able to protect the privacy of the members of the public. As to the algorithm of the system, through this Smart Transport Fund, we do support a number of studies on V2X. When we conduct the studies on the V2X, we would certainly consider how we can strike a balance. We have the public system and how the design should be, and there should also be some flexibility for the private system to be riding on it. And between the manufacturers, they would like to have their own system which they consider would be excelling in the market. And in this Smart Transport Fund, we will discuss this, and we hope that we will be achieving better results going forward. As to the ownership of the data, I defer to the Transport Department. Mr. Chairman, like the DS said, in the Smart Traffic Fund, we would be disseminating certain information so that the AVs would be collecting or receiving the information. In the Dongchong trial, we have the intelligence system where the sensor would be far more sophisticated than human eyes. Even when it's pouring down with heavy rain, they would be able to sense people jumping in front of the vehicles. We appreciate that we are using the code of practice to govern the whole thing. But later on, when development is going ahead, we will certainly look at this. We do have a monitoring platform to keep an eye on this. At the moment, it is at a trial stage, but certainly this will be revisited going forward. Right, this is where we leave this subject. Please take note of all the latest regarding smart mobility, and I think we can wrap up this item. Thank you very much, Mr. Mack and your team, for being with us and briefing us on the details. Thank you very much. Next item is any other business. I don't have any AOB item. Unless you have any AOB items, and the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all very much.